Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Mondays with Mike. I'm Mike, and it is the last day of September. Now, you may have noticed I didn't have a Mondays with Mike last week, and that was because I was out sick. What did I have? Well, yes, for the first time in the 4 years since this nightmare began, I caught the virus. And like I said, I never caught it before. In fact, the only person in our family really who caught it was my wife. One time, she had a very mild case of it and tested negative after a couple of days. I would say I had it felt like the flu. Um, Headache, body aches, fever for about a day and a half, 2 days. Had a really hard time sleeping too, and still, though, after all that, I kind of had like that. If you've had it, it's sort of like you're trying to catch your breath. And even now, it's been 2 weeks since I originally caught it, and I've long since gotten over it for the most part. But I still don't feel well. I mean, not sick in the sense of like I can't get up, but I get winded more easily. I went to the gym yesterday to try to work out. I just felt, ugh, I just don't feel myself. So it's still out there. It doesn't look like obviously it's as severe as it used to be, but the focus of this is not a health show. It is about weather. And so we got a lot coming up. What I'm going to do here is I want to give you a summary of all the newest developments in the tropics. We're going to focus mostly here on the tropics, just about all on the tropics. What's happening out there now? I have some flooding video from North Carolina and some from Georgia too, I believe. That is just stunning, scary, scary stuff. And then I'm also going to take you behind the scenes and show you a little bit of what we do for our Forecasting with Friends show that comes on every Monday through Friday at 11. So let's get into it. So obviously the focus has been on Hurricane Helene, this terrible historic hurricane that's now caused just incredible destruction and deaths, which was the fourth landfall, the fourth United States Gulf Coast landfall of the year. That's saying a lot. That doesn't happen very often. In fact, I think you have to go back, see, in 2020, I think we had four hurricane landfalls on the Gulf Coast. It happened in 2005, and then you have to go back to the late 1800s, where we had sort of a similar turn of events where we had so many storms making landfall on the Gulf Coast. We have made it up here too to the K storm. We had Kirk that was just upgraded this morning. It was upgraded from a tropical, what wasn't even a tropical depression yet, to a tropical storm. So it went straight from a disturbance to a storm. So that makes the 11th named storm of the season. Leslie and Milton will be the next two, and they might be coming sooner than later. So this is the visible satellite view of what is now the K storm. Kirk, and you'll see a pretty well-defined circulation there. So this one is well on its way to becoming a hurricane here over the next day or two. In fact, there's a good chance that it could even become a major hurricane. But the important part for us and for you, for everybody watching, really storm-weary USA, is that it's not coming anywhere near us. It is just going to be a concern for shipping and flights and things like that out over the Atlantic Ocean. So yeah, definitely could get those wind speeds above 115 miles per hour, but it looks like it's just going to be sort of out there in the wilderness of the open Atlantic Ocean. As far as what's happening elsewhere around the Atlantic, there actually has been a lot of activity. Sorry about this blink that's going to come up here. That's coming from the satellite, from the GOES East. But we had Isaac, which is up there, and then we also had Joyce, which is right now sort of weakening into a tropical depression. So we actually ended up with three storms out in the Atlantic that kind of got lost in the mix because obviously all the attention, rightfully so, was on Hurricane Helene. So we're starting to catch up, actually. Remember, it's kind of slowed down out there. We didn't have that much going on. We're starting to catch up on some of those storm numbers now that we're at storm number 11, and we have 12 and 13 not far behind. I wanted to show you this. This is the GFS computer model, and it's picking up on Kirk there becoming a very strong hurricane out in the Atlantic Ocean. It also shows another one coming in behind it. This is by this upcoming weekend. So whether this will be Leslie or Milton or yet another name, we don't quite know yet, because there may be some activity in the Gulf of Mexico or in the Caribbean Sea as well. But so we have that one to watch. And then a little bit closer to home, the best way I could describe this is just a mess. It's going to be kind of a nebulous mess in the Gulf and in the Caribbean Sea over the next few days. The thing is, it doesn't look like it's really going to affect Texas and the Houston, Galveston area very much. I'm not going to say we couldn't get any rain out of it, but it looks like, you see that line right there? That represents a front. So that front is out here in the Gulf of Mexico. To the north of the front, we're sunny and dry, where we are right now, middle 90s for high temperatures. Then you go to the south of it, and that's where it's going to be really unstable. Lots of deep tropical moisture and a few tropical waves passing through. So I want to show you this, which is the Fox model, our exclusive Fox model. And you're going to see, like I said, a mess. So it's all I'm going to try to make it not go by too quickly, but that line right there, again, represents the front. So anything to the south of it or along the front is kind of fair game. So we'll pause this here Monday evening, where we have the tropical wave that we saw that was near the Yucatan. And then if we pause it again here, now heading into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you'll see a low spin up there and go into Mississippi and Alabama. Another one down here near Tampico, and yet another one here to the north of Cancun. So are all of these going to become named tropical systems? Probably not, but a couple of them could become tropical depressions. So because of that, there's going to be a lot of messy stuff happening down there in the Gulf. Could end up with a couple of named systems. And otherwise, we're just kind of looking for a continuation of this. We're going to see a lot of this for the rest of the week. So as far as how all of that messy stuff in the tropics may affect us, we're looking at late in the week, and it's a big maybe. It doesn't look like anything's going to come plowing into us. The steering currents don't favor that, but there certainly is the chance that maybe some of the outer effects of some of this may come close to enough to us that maybe we see some scattered storms, especially near the coastline, maybe late Thursday, heading into Friday or early Saturday. So back to Helene, with the flooding that took place during Helene, both the storm surge flooding and more remarkably, the inland flooding that took place in the Carolinas, I wanted to share some of this video with you. Unbelievable amount of flooding and destruction. This is from western North Carolina. This is from the Asheville, North Carolina area. And, most of the time you don't think of mountains, you don't think of western North Carolina as a place that deals with flooding from hurricanes. But when these storms move inland, and especially as fast moving as Helene was, moving to the north at about 25 miles an hour after it made landfall in Florida, it zipped its way through Georgia and unfortunately just dumped hour after hour after hour of rain on both South Carolina and North Carolina, resulting in this epic flooding you're seeing. I mean, some of these towns, it's going to take years to recover. Radar estimated rainfall totals were something in the neighborhood of 3 feet. Officially measured locations, weren't quite as much. It looks like we did have some record rainfall, certainly, but the thing is, you can't measure rainfall everywhere. And when you see, and this, by the way, what you're looking at right now is not even the worst of it. This is sort of after the rain has stopped and after everybody sort of has had a chance to settle down. This is a drone video, by the way. So now they have, drones up kind of showing us the wide view. It really is sort of Hurricane Harvey looking flooding. The difference is you see those mountains off in the background. I mean, we, of course, don't have mountains here in Houston other than Mount Houston. And so the flooding that we get tends to be street flooding, neighborhood flooding, water that's not usually flowing that quickly because there's just not that much of an angle to the ground. So the water levels come up and they cause very serious flooding, and they can cause drowning and all kind of problems for us. But it's just a little bit different. Not a little bit different, it's a lot different in an area like this where you have mountains and valleys. And when you get this extreme rainfall coming down, the water moves with a lot of velocity. And so it will, wipe homes off of their foundation. And imagine not just water, rushing down a street, but water carrying pieces of people's homes, carrying cars or bicycles or, you name it, anything that's outside that could be carried by rushing water. All of a sudden you're getting hit by that and not just the water, and it just smashes everything. Now take a look at this. I think there's some sound coming up here. But yeah, those are people actually paddling out of their home on an inflatable mattress and on rowboats. There were hundreds and hundreds of water rescues made across Georgia and across both Carolinas. Let's see that again. So there's a boat. So there are some actual boats out there, but you'll see that, interspersed within the boats, there were actually some people who were paddling on an inflatable mattress right there.
Oh my God, they're really on.
I suppose sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but that is pretty scary. All right, everybody. So now we're moving on from all the flooding. That unbelievable video, right? It's incredible. We're actually in the studio right now, and I'm about to do our live broadcast of Forecasting with Friends. We're coming up in about 35 seconds. Now, Mondays with Mike airs at 1 p.m. My Mondays are ridiculous. So let me tell you something. I go home and it's like Miller time. But so I'm going to give you a little look behind the scenes of what we do. Allison Gargaro over the weekend did a lot of the heavy lifting with producing everything for the show. We have 3 blocks of the show. The first one is going to have some updates and videos from Helene. And then we have 2 segments, one from Ramisha and one from Allison, that are going to run in the B block. So I'm coming up in 2 seconds right now. All right, welcome to Forecasting with Friends, everybody. Mike Iscovitz here, friendless today. But that's okay. We have a lot of serious stuff to talk about. Obviously, Hurricane Helene, just a hellacious, ferocious storm. And so that's where we're going to begin. So the death toll from Hurricane Helene, according to Fox Weather, now exceeds 100 people. An enormous path of destruction that began in Florida with high winds and storm surge. Category 4 storm made landfall Thursday morning, knocked out power to millions, pushed floodwaters inland, and then dumped heavy rain all the way to North Carolina. In fact, in the city of Atlanta, they issued their first flash flood emergency. And in fact, they set the 2-day record for rainfall in the Atlanta area, measured at the airport there more than 11 inches of rain. And look how fast the water is rushing, too. So first responders had to perform hundreds of high water rescues, including in Tennessee, where helicopters rescued dozens of staff and patients who ended up stranded on the roof of a flooded hospital. Well, that's somebody we know and love. That's Bob Van Dillen. We've had him on the show before, and look what he did. I got to tell you guys, this is actually my first time seeing this. I have to send him a note. I'm going to have to send him an email on this. This is incredible. I mean, when somebody's stuck in their car and you don't know if the water is going to keep rising or not, I think what he did there was amazing, because if that water got any higher, she could have died in that car. And he was there to carry her out. That's amazing. Very great guy. Great guy. Good job there. Well, obviously, Bob Van Dillen became a hero there, reporting on the streets of Atlanta. Now, this is crazy, okay? Sometimes people do get caught out there in the Gulf of Mexico. You wonder how. The Coast Guard rescued a man and his dog. They were on a sailboat. How does that happen? I'm not victim blaming. How does that happen? They were right on the coast of Florida during Hurricane Helene. They had a 36-foot long sailboat. It became disabled and stranded. It was taking on water. Coast Guard member came down from the helicopter, gave them life jackets, gave the dog a life jacket. Thank God they're okay. They are okay. Of course, the dog doesn't know any better. The human should have known better. Now, take a look at this. This reminds me of Hurricane Ike, doesn't it? If you remember that here locally from 2008, dozens of boats ended up on the front lawns of homes in Treasure Island, Florida, after Helene slammed into the Gulf Coast. This is near St. Petersburg, shows you the destructive power of the storm surge. Unbelievable. Now, good news from Tampa General Hospital following Hurricane Helene's landfall. That's what's called an aqua fence. You see that? The aqua fence was put up to keep water away from the generators. They sent out this video saying, yeah, it worked, this aqua fence. The barrier is designed to withstand storm surge of up to 15 feet. The water didn't get higher, but the strength of this thing to be able to hold back that volume of water, the pressure of the water. Remember the flooding that we had here in our own medical center here in the Texas Medical Center during Hurricane Allison. And there were some barriers that were put up in place since then to try to protect it. But that is a product, whoever invented that product, this is what you call proof of performance. And that's going to be a really big deal. And probably they're going to get a lot of orders for new aqua fences. So let me discuss a little bit of some new developments. And we're actually going to hear from Ramisha Shade and from Allison coming up here in just a little bit about what's been happening out there in the tropics. But I think I'll give you a quick tropical update here because we did have a new storm that just formed this morning. So you're going to hear from Ramisha here in just a couple of minutes. Kirk actually was literally just added, pretty shortly after she recorded that. But here's a look at where we are in the season. So we're now up to the 11th named storm of the season, with Kirk being updated this morning. Now, in the wake of Helene, I want you to know that Isaac, Joyce, Kirk, nowhere near the United States. These things are way out there into the Atlantic Ocean and really not going to be a concern for us. Satellite view here, right there in the middle of your screen. This is the visible satellite view of newly formed Tropical Storm Kirk. So this one has winds right now of about 45 miles per hour. It is not going to come anywhere near the United States. Okay, so don't worry about that. In fact, here's the forecast track over the next 5 days. This is the new, in fact, you know what? Look, they bumped the winds up to 50. As of the latest advisory. It's moving to the west at 12. It'll start to curve off toward the north and end up in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, most likely as a very powerful hurricane. This is a broader view, again, of that circulation and also some other action that's happening to the north. In the middle part of your screen is Joyce. That one's dissipating. And in the top part of your screen, you can barely even see it there, is Isaac, which right now is just a tropical depression, Isaac. And let me show you this. So this is the GFS, our American computer model. And you're going to see in the middle of your screen there what it's doing with Kirk, which is showing it strengthening considerably. But notice there's also a little guy behind it there on the right-hand side of your screen. So that one could become Leslie or Milton over the next couple of days as well. And finally, we're going to look at all of this in a lot more detail coming up, that there are a few tropical waves and sort of bumps in the road that are going to be moving here into the Gulf of Mexico over the next few days that could lead to the formation of a tropical depression or even a tropical storm. And it doesn't look like it's going to have a direct impact on the Houston area. All right, so stick around. We're going to hear on the latest of the tropics and a look back at what has been a remarkable hurricane season so far with Ramisha Shade and Allison Gargaro right after this. All right, so that was what we call the first block of Forecasting with Friends. What we do next is we're going to run those stories that I mentioned with Ramisha and Allison. We try to get everybody involved, right? Even if I might be the only person who's on the show live today, we want to hear from everybody. So we get Ramisha's take on things, Allison's take on things, and of course JD's take on things. We're going to have his hurricane gear test, I think tomorrow or Wednesday. And depending how much time we have left after the updates from Ramisha and Allison, I'll also do a tropical update here at the very end of everything. So That's what we do. Again, it's Monday through Friday. We do forecasting with friends here. If you have never come across it before, and if you're not home at 11 to watch it, just know it also is posted to Fox Local. And if you scroll down to the weather section, you'll see the latest forecasting with friends. And generally, it's also posted to YouTube at some point as well. But yeah, it's what we do every day. It's something that we've grown to really take a lot of pride in. It's a pretty cool thing. Um, so yeah, I'll be back to wrap things up here in just a bit. Okay, so right now we're about 2/3 of the way through the show, and we're running a segment that Allison recorded over the weekend, where she's summarizing all of the landfalls in the Gulf Coast over this season. So right now, I have to actually get ready to do the news at noon, which is going to be right over there. So between now and the end of the show, I'm going to have to finalize everything that I'm doing and make sure that I'm ready for the news at noon after we get finished with this show. So now I have a few minutes that I'm going to have to, because the noon show is coming up here very shortly. Again, this is recorded just before the noon show and aired at 1 p.m. But so right now I have to get all the latest data. Has anything changed? Update the graphics for this new tropical storm that we have. Look at the latest models on the Gulf. Is anything interesting or different showing up? Any adjustments that I need to make to the 7-day forecast and things like that for the news at noon. Otherwise, everything looks like it's probably going to stay the same. But yeah, it's Mondays are busy. So on busy days like this, it would really be impossible to do this without, the work of my colleagues and everybody kind of having a lot of stuff done so that we could pull all of this off. We have a lot of content both on Fox 26 itself, but also on Fox Local and on our social media platforms. I haven't even posted to TikTok yet today. So anyway, thank you for joining us on this sort of a little bit of a different edition, I suppose, a little bit behind the scenes edition and a little bit of a sad edition when you talk about Hurricane Helene of Mondays with Mike. I want to give a shout out to my brother. He and I both are having knee problems right now. My knee hurts every day, and his knee hurts, and it's the same knee, which is the really weird thing. So I don't know. We're both aging at the same pace, I guess. So anyway, so shout out to my mom and Neil. I'm glad you guys made it through the storm pretty much unscathed, and hope to see y'all soon. And I want to thank everybody out there for watching Mondays with Mike, and please tune in to our show every day at 11 a.m. Forecasting with Friends. And stay safe out there, and stay tuned for updates on anything that could be developing in the tropics and the Gulf for this week.